The bride called me embarrassing at the $90,000 wedding I was funding. I'm Michael Andrews, and I thought I was doing what any father would do. For 26 years, I'd given my daughter everything: private schools, college tuition, down payment on her condo. But at her wedding, in front of 180 guests, she decided I wasn't good enough for her new life. She told me to stay quiet about my blue-collar background so I wouldn't embarrass her wealthy in-laws. She had no idea who she was really talking to. I smiled, pulled out my phone, and made 3 calls that ended her perfect day. What happened next taught her that some foundations can't be shaken, and that the man she was ashamed to call father had built an empire she never knew existed. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how a plumber's daughter learned that respect isn't bought, it's earned. This story starts 18 years ago when my wife died and left me alone with 8-year-old Jessica. I was a plumber then, made decent money, but decent wasn't enough for what I wanted to give my daughter. So I worked 3 jobs: plumbing during the day, maintenance at the hospital nights, and weekend construction gigs. I wanted Jessica to have opportunities I never had. Private school cost me $18,000 a year. I drove a rusted pickup truck so she could wear the same uniforms as doctors' kids and lawyers' kids. When other dads showed up in suits for school events, I came straight from job sites with dirt under my fingernails and calluses that could sand wood. Jessica never seemed to mind. She'd run to me anyway, hugging me tight regardless of how I smelled or looked. "That's my daddy," she'd tell her friends proudly. "He works really hard." Those were the best years of my life. College was $43,000 annually. I took out loans, worked overtime, sold my father's tools. Jessica studied marketing at Northwestern, made friends whose parents owned businesses and vacation homes. She started coming home less, talking more about her new world. After graduation, she got a job at a boutique marketing firm in Charleston. Good salary, nice apartment I helped her finance. Then she met Ryan Palmer. Ryan came from old Charleston money. Investment banker, trust fund, family that owned half the historic district. The kind of people who attended charity galas and country club events. The kind of people who looked right through working men like me. Jessica started changing. Subtle at first, correcting my grammar, suggesting I dress better when we went out. Then came the comments about my truck being embarrassing when she brought friends around. She stopped mentioning what I did for work. Last Christmas, she brought Ryan home for the first time. He was polite enough, but I caught the way he looked at my house, my furniture, my hands, like he was studying something foreign. "So, you're in construction?" he asked over dinner. "Plumbing, mostly," I said. "Built up a small business over the years." He nodded with that practiced smile rich people use when they're being charitable. "That's honest work." Jessica shot me a look. Later in the kitchen, she whispered urgently, "Daddy, maybe don't mention the plumbing thing so much around Ryan's family. They're very traditional." Traditional. That was her word for snobbish. When they announced their engagement 6 months ago, Jessica sat me down for what she called an important conversation. "Daddy, I love you so much, and I'm grateful for everything you've done," she started. The but was coming. I could feel it. "But Ryan's family has certain expectations. They're paying for part of the wedding, and they've invited some very important people." "What are you asking me, honey?" She couldn't meet my eyes. "I just think maybe it would be better if you didn't talk too much about your work background at the wedding. You could just say you're in business, which is true." Business. Like Andrew's building group wasn't a real business. "These people don't understand blue-collar work," she continued. "They might judge, and I don't want them judging you." But what she really meant was she didn't want them judging her. I agreed, because I love my daughter, because I wanted her happy, because I thought maybe she was just nervous about fitting in with her new family. I had no idea how much worse it was going to get. 2 weeks before the wedding, Jessica called with more rules. I wasn't in the wedding party anymore. Ryan's father would walk her down the aisle because it would mean a lot to the Palmer family. I could sit in the front row and just enjoy the day, enjoy watching my daughter get married by another man, enjoy staying silent while my sacrifices were erased. That should have been my breaking point. But I love my daughter more than my pride. I should have known she wasn't done humiliating me yet. The wedding was costing $90,000. Jessica showed me the breakdown like she was sharing good news. Venue rental at Riverside Country Club, $38,000. Catering for 180 guests, $28,000. Flowers, $12,000. Photography, $8,000. Everything else, $4,000. Ryan's parents are contributing $30,000, she said. But we're still short $60,000. She didn't ask. She just looked at me with those eyes that had gotten her everything since she was 8 years old. $60,000. More than I used to make in 2 years of plumbing. But I'd been building something bigger than Jessica knew. Much bigger. Of course, honey, I said. Whatever you need. What I needed was respect. What I got was a list of conditions. Jessica emailed me. Emailed, not called, a week before the wedding. The subject line read, Wedding Day Guidelines. I printed it out and read it 3 times, each time feeling smaller. Hi, Daddy. Just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page for Saturday. Please remember, don't mention plumbing or construction work. If people ask what you do, just say business. Please don't tell any of your work stories. They can be a little much for this crowd. Try to keep conversations short and polite. The Palmer family has worked really hard to make this day special, so let's make sure nothing disrupts that. Love you. XOXO, Jessica. Nothing disrupts that. As if I was a disruption at my own daughter's wedding. But the real knife came 3 days later, when I was picking up my tuxedo. The young woman at the rental shop was making conversation. Big wedding this weekend? She asked. My daughter's getting married, I said, proud despite everything. Oh, how exciting. I bet you're so proud. What's she like? She's amazing. Smart, beautiful, worked hard to get where she is. The woman smiled. I bet she gets her work ethic from her dad. I was about to answer when I heard a familiar laugh from the dressing rooms. Jessica's voice carried clearly through the thin walls. Oh, God, you should see the guest list, she was saying to her friend Madison. Ryan's side is all doctors and lawyers and business owners. My side is, well, it's a lot more diverse. Madison laughed. What do you mean? My dad's friends are mostly like construction workers and plumbers and stuff. Really salt-of-the-earth people, you know? It's going to be interesting. That's kind of sweet, though. I guess. I just hope they don't embarrass me. My dad, especially. He has this way of talking about work that's very detailed. Like, no one needs to know about pipe repair over dinner, you know? They both laughed. My daughter was laughing about me embarrassing her. At least the reception will be nice, Madison said. Riverside Country Club is gorgeous. Right? Ryan's parents have such good taste. My dad would have picked some VFW hall or something. More laughter. Like my tastes were a joke. Like I was a joke. I stood there in that tuxedo shop, holding my rental receipt, listening to my daughter reduce 26 years of sacrifice to a punchline. The stakes crystallized in that moment. This wasn't just about one day. This was about who I was going to be for the rest of Jessica's life. The embarrassing father she tolerated, or the man who deserved respect. If I stayed quiet at this wedding, if I let her erase my story and my sacrifices, I'd be telling her it was okay. I'd be agreeing that blue-collar work was shameful, that the man who raised her was less than the people she wanted to impress. $60,000 bought me the right to an opinion. More than that, it bought me the right to dignity. I just had to decide if I was going to claim it. Saturday was coming fast, and Jessica had no idea that her embarrassing father had a few surprises of his own. Saturday arrived with perfect Charleston weather. 78 degrees, blue skies, gentle breeze off the harbor. The kind of day Jessica had dreamed about since she was little. I drove to Riverside Country Club in my pickup truck, parking between a Mercedes and a BMW. The valet looked confused, like I might be a vendor who'd gotten lost. I'm Michael Andrews, I said, father of the bride. His expression shifted to practiced politeness. Of course, sir, right this way. The country club was everything Jessica had wanted. Colonial architecture, manicured lawns, crystal chandeliers visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of place that whispered old money in every detail. I found Jessica in the bridal suite, surrounded by bridesmaids and her wedding planner. She looked beautiful in her $4,000 Vera Wang dress. My little girl, all grown up. Daddy! She hugged me carefully, mindful of her makeup. You look so handsome. The bridesmaids smiled politely. I recognized a few from college, daughters of doctors and executives who'd always been friendly but distant. We need to have a quick family meeting, Jessica said, leading me to a quiet corner. Ryan appeared with his parents, Sterling and Patricia Palmer. Sterling was everything you'd expect from old Charleston money. Pressed slacks, club tie, silver hair that cost more to maintain than most people's cars. Patricia wore understated jewelry that probably cost more than my truck. Michael, Sterling said, extending a firm handshake, beautiful day for a wedding. Absolutely, I replied. Jessica looks perfect. She does indeed. Patricia's smile was warm but measuring. Ryan tells us you're in business. There it was, the test question. Jessica's eyes pleaded with me. Daddy owns a small company. She jumped in quickly. Nothing too exciting. Small businesses are the backbone of America, Sterling said diplomatically. Ryan checked his watch. We should probably go over the schedule. Actually, Jessica said, her voice taking on a tone I'd never heard before, confident but cold. I wanted to discuss the ceremony protocol. She had a small notebook, like this was a business meeting. Daddy, I know we talked about this, but I want to make sure we're clear. During cocktail hour, please just mingle quietly. Keep conversations light. Weather, sports, that kind of thing. Jessica, I said slowly, these are your guests. They're here to celebrate you. I know, but... She glanced at Ryan's parents. Some of them might not understand your work background. It's better to just avoid potential awkwardness. Sterling looked uncomfortable. Patricia studied her fingernails. What kind of awkwardness? I asked. Ryan stepped forward. Mr. Andrews, no offense, but my colleagues are used to a certain level of conversation. Technical work details can be overwhelming for people outside the industry. Technical work details. Like plumbing was some obscure hobby. You mean they can't handle hearing about honest work? Daddy, Jessica's voice was sharp. Please don't make this difficult. I'm not making anything difficult. I'm asking what's wrong with talking about my job. Nothing's wrong with it, she said quickly. It's just, this crowd expects different topics. What do they expect? Patricia finally spoke up. Investment strategies, market trends, business development, the kind of shop talk that happens at these events. I see. I looked at my daughter. And you agree with this? Jessica's cheeks flushed. I just want everyone to be comfortable. Everyone except your father. That's not what I... It's exactly what you said. I kept my voice level. You want me to pretend I'm someone else so your new family won't be uncomfortable? Sterling cleared his throat. Michael, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I said. My daughter is asking me to lie about who I am. Not lie, Jessica said desperately. Just edit. Edit what? The fact that I worked 3 jobs to put you through school? The fact that I built something from nothing? The fact that your education came from these hands? I held up my calloused palms. Everyone stared. Those hands, I continued, paid for Northwestern, paid for your apartment, paid for this wedding. Daddy, please. Please what? Please pretend I'm ashamed of providing for you? Ryan stepped between us. Mr. Andrews, I think you're overreacting. I looked at this young man in his perfect suit, with his trust fund confidence and his inherited superiority. Am I? Jessica's just trying to manage a complex social situation, he said. These events have their own dynamics. Their own dynamics. I repeated his words slowly. And where do I fit in these dynamics? You fit in perfectly, Patricia said quickly. We just want you to feel comfortable. I'd feel comfortable talking about my life, my work, my daughter. Of course, Sterling said. Within reason. Within reason. There was the line in the sand. I looked at Jessica. She was staring at the floor, twisting her engagement ring, the $18,000 ring I'd co-signed for. So what you're telling me, I said quietly, is that my money is welcome here, but my story isn't. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Jessica finally looked up. Daddy, can we please just get through today? Get through today, like my presence was something to endure. Sure, honey, I said. Let's get through today. But something had shifted in that moment. Something that couldn't be taken back. The escalation had begun. The cocktail hour was a masterclass in polite exclusion. I circulated through the crowd, nursing a bourbon and watching Jessica work the room like a politician. She was good at it. Warm smiles, animated conversations, graceful transitions from group to group. Ryan stayed close, introducing her to uncles and business partners with obvious pride. She's remarkable, I heard him tell a silver-haired man. Marketing director at Camden & Associates. Really understands the Charleston business community. Camden & Associates. I knew that firm well. Their CEO, Jonathan Camden, had been trying to land Andrews Building Group as a client for 2 years. I kept that information to myself. Michael Andrews? I turned to find a woman in her early 40s, professionally dressed with kind eyes. Amanda Davis, she said, extending her hand. I'm the venue manager here. Nice to meet you. Beautiful place you run. Her handshake lingered a moment longer than necessary. I have to ask, are you the Michael Andrews from Andrews Building Group? Something in her tone made me pause. You know the company? Know it? Mr. Andrews, your company rebuilt our kitchen after the fire 2 years ago. You personally came out 3 times to make sure the work met our standards. I remembered. The country club's kitchen had suffered extensive fire damage, and they'd needed it operational fast for wedding season. It was a $250,000 job, completed ahead of schedule. You probably don't remember me, Amanda continued, but you helped my family too. When my ex-husband stopped paying child support during the divorce, you let me work late on the invoicing to earn extra hours. That overtime pay kept my kids fed. I did remember. Amanda had been working 2 jobs, struggling to stay afloat. Good worker, honest person, deserved better than what life had dealt her. Everyone's doing well now? I asked. Better than well. Both kids in college now, thanks partly to the stability you provided. She paused, glancing around the elegant reception area. I had no idea this was your daughter's wedding. Beautiful bride, I said diplomatically. She is, and lucky to have you for a father. Amanda's expression shifted slightly, though I have to say I'm surprised to see you here as a guest. Why's that? She smiled mysteriously. Well, technically, you're not just a guest, are you? Before I could ask what she meant, a hand clapped my shoulder. Michael Andrews, what are the odds? I turned to see Thomas Moore, president of First National Bank. Thomas and I played golf occasionally when time permitted. He was one of the few people who knew the full scope of Andrews Building Group's operations. Thomas, good to see you. Wouldn't miss it. The Palmer family has banked with us for 3 generations. He gestured toward Ryan, who was charming a group of older women. Fine young man. Sterling speaks very highly of him. I'm sure he does. Thomas lowered his voice. Between you and me, the Palmer family's been asking a lot of questions about potential business partnerships lately. Sterling mentioned they'd heard about some major construction opportunities coming up. Really? Charleston's growing fast. Historic district renovations, new developments along the coast. A lot of money to be made for the right companies. Thomas sipped his champagne. You know anything about that? I smiled. I might have heard something. I'll bet you have. Thomas's eyes twinkled with shared knowledge. Anyway, I should pay my respects to the bride. Sterling tells me she's in marketing. Camden and Associates, I said. Good firm. Jonathan Camden's been making moves lately, expanding his client base, going after bigger contracts. Thomas paused meaningfully, probably looking for the right construction partners. As Thomas walked away, I noticed Amanda Davis still watching me. She raised her champagne glass slightly, a gesture that seemed more significant than a casual toast. Across the room, Jessica caught my eye and smiled brilliantly. She was radiant, surrounded by Ryan's family and their circle of influence. Everything she'd wanted, acceptance, status, belonging. She had no idea that some of the most important people in that room already knew exactly who her father was and what he was capable of. The evening was young, and the real introductions hadn't begun yet. Dinner was announced at 7:15. I found my assigned seat at table 12, not the family table, but close enough to hear everything. The table cards were hand calligraphed, the centerpieces were $12,000 orchid arrangements, and the guests around me were Ryan's extended family and business associates. You must be Jessica's father, said the woman next to me. Elegant 60s, dripping with understated wealth. I'm Caroline Palmer, Ryan's aunt. Michael Andrews, pleasure to meet you. Jessica's such a lovely girl. Ryan is absolutely smitten. Caroline sipped her wine. She tells us you're in business. There was that phrase again, in business, like it was code for something vague and unimportant. That's right. Anything we might have heard of? Before I could answer, the man across from me leaned forward. I'm Harrison Blackwell. I develop commercial properties around Charleston. Harrison Blackwell. I knew that name very well. Andrews Building Group had submitted bids for 3 of his projects in the past year. He'd gone with cheaper competitors each time, then called us 6 months later to fix their mistakes. Michael Andrews, I said, shaking his hand. Andrews? He frowned. That name sounds familiar. Common name, I said mildly. The servers appeared with the first course. $28,000 bought a lot of herb-crusted lamb and truffle risotto. I'd eaten at construction sites for 18 years, but I could appreciate quality. Caroline continued the polite interrogation. What sort of business are you in, Michael? Construction, I said simply. Oh, her tone shifted almost imperceptibly. Commercial or residential? Both. Harrison's eyes sharpened. What's your company name? Andrews Building Group. He went very still. Andrews Building Group, the ones who renovated the historic district courthouse? That was us. And the new marina complex on James Island. Also us. Caroline looked confused. Harrison looked like he'd swallowed his wine the wrong way. I've been trying to reach your company for months, Harrison said. We have several projects that need your expertise. I know, I said. We've been busy. The conversation died there, but I could feel the shift. Word would spread quickly through these social networks. Ryan's family was about to discover that Jessica's blue-collar father wasn't exactly what they'd imagined. But Jessica wasn't done yet. The toasts began after the main course. Ryan's father spoke first, eloquent, polished, welcoming Jessica into their family with open arms and grateful hearts. Ryan's best man followed with humor and affection. Then Jessica stood up. She looked stunning under the chandeliers, confident and radiant. This was her moment, the culmination of everything she'd worked toward. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice carrying perfectly through the dining room. Ryan and I are so grateful to be surrounded by such amazing family and friends. Applause rippled through the crowd. I want to thank some very special people, Jessica continued. First, Sterling and Patricia Palmer, for welcoming me into your incredible family. You've shown me what grace and generosity look like. More applause. The Palmers beamed. I want to thank my wonderful bridesmaids who've been with me through everything. Madison, Sarah, Caroline, Emma, you girls are my sisters. The bridesmaids raised their glasses from the head table. And I want to thank the man who made this incredible day possible, my future father-in-law, Sterling Palmer, whose vision and support turned our dreams into reality. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Sterling, Jessica continued, you've been like a father to me from the moment we met. Your wisdom, your connections, your guidance, none of this would have happened without you. You've given us not just this beautiful wedding, but a foundation for our future. The crowd erupted in applause. Sterling stood briefly, acknowledging the praise with practiced humility. Jessica wasn't finished. I know some people might wonder about my own family, she said, her voice taking on a slightly different tone. My father did his best after my mother died. He worked very hard, and I'm grateful for that. But tonight is about the future, not the past. My blood went cold. Tonight is about the family that chose me, not just the one I was born into. It's about the people who see potential and invest in it, not just the people who provide basic necessities. Basic necessities. So I want to raise a glass to Sterling and Patricia Palmer and to Ryan and to everyone here who represents the life we're building together. Thank you for showing me what success really looks like. The applause was thunderous. Everyone stood except me. 180 people were clapping for a toast that erased 18 years of my life. That reduced everything I'd sacrificed to basic necessities. That positioned another man as her real father figure. Caroline Palmer squeezed my arm sympathetically. She's nervous, she whispered. Young brides say things they don't mean. But Harrison Blackwell was staring at me with something approaching awe. He knew exactly what Andrews Building Group was worth. He knew what kind of empire built those basic necessities. As Jessica sat down, glowing with satisfaction, our eyes met across the room. I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It wasn't a proud father's smile. It was the smile of a man who'd just made a decision. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my contacts. $60,000 had bought Jessica this perfect day. $60,000 had bought her the right to publicly humiliate the man who earned it. But money is a funny thing. It only flows as long as the tap stays open. And I was about to turn off the tap. Jessica had no idea that her basic necessities provider was about to give her a master class in exactly what success looked like. The night was about to take a very different turn. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The sound carried in the brief lull between Jessica's toast and the next course service. If I could have everyone's attention for just a moment, I said, my voice calm but carrying clearly through the dining room. The conversations died gradually, like ripples moving backward through the crowd. Jessica's face went pale. Ryan half rose from his chair. I don't usually speak at these things, I continued, but after that beautiful toast, I feel like I should say a few words about family. Sterling Palmer looked uncomfortable. Patricia was scanning the room like she was calculating escape routes. First, let me introduce myself properly, since there seems to be some confusion about who I am. I smiled at Harrison Blackwell, who was watching with fascination. I'm Michael Andrews, CEO and founder of Andrews Building Group. A murmur went through the crowd. Someone at table 6 whispered something urgently to their companion. Now, some of you might know that name. We're a small company, only about 200 employees. We specialize in historic renovations, commercial construction, and high-end residential projects. Thomas More was grinning openly now. Amanda Davis had appeared in the dining room doorway, watching with professional interest. We've had the privilege of working on some beautiful projects around Charleston, the courthouse renovation that Harrison mentioned, the marina complex, the new children's wing at Charleston General Hospital. I paused, looking directly at Jessica. And about 3 years ago, we rebuilt the kitchen at this very country club after their fire. Amanda stepped forward slightly, catching the light. In fact, I continued, some of you might not know that Andrews Building Group has been a corporate sponsor of Riverside Country Club for the past 2 years, which makes tonight particularly special for me. The murmur grew louder. People were pulling out phones, probably Googling Andrews Building Group. Ryan's face had gone white. But I want to talk about family, I said, my voice carrying a slight edge now, because family is about more than just blood. It's about sacrifice. It's about showing up. It's about building something together. I walked slowly toward the head table, my hands clasped behind my back. For 18 years, I worked 3 jobs to give my daughter opportunities I never had. I drove a rusted pickup truck so she could attend private school with children whose parents drove BMWs. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch so she could have dance lessons and violin lessons and summer camps. Jessica was staring at her plate. Ryan was looking around desperately, like he was hoping someone would intervene. I paid $43,000 a year for her college education. Not because I had $43,000 lying around, but because I believed in investing in her future. Thomas More started clapping slowly. A few other people joined in. And when she needed help with her apartment, her car, her business wardrobe, I was there. Not because it was easy, but because that's what fathers do. The applause was growing. I could see people connecting dots, understanding exactly who they were looking at. 3 months ago, Jessica came to me about her wedding. She needed $60,000 to make her dreams come true. And you know what? I didn't hesitate, because that's what family does. I was at the head table now, standing directly behind Jessica's chair. But here's what I learned tonight. Apparently, all of that sacrifice, all of that support, all of those years of putting my daughter first, that's just basic necessities. The room was dead silent, except for the clink of crystal and silver as servers froze in place. Apparently, the man who really deserves credit for Jessica's success is sitting right over there. I gestured toward Sterling Palmer. The man who met her 8 months ago and wrote a $30,000 check? Sterling was shaking his head, trying to signal that he wanted no part of this confrontation. Now, I don't blame Sterling, I continued. He's been generous and welcoming, but I do want to clarify something for everyone here. I pulled out my wallet, the worn leather wallet that Jessica had always been embarrassed by, and removed a business card. Andrews Building Group, I read aloud, isn't just any construction company. We're the 3rd largest commercial contractor in South Carolina. We employ 218 people. Our annual revenue last year was $15.7 million. The silence was absolute now. Even the servers had stopped moving. We've built shopping centers, office complexes, luxury hotels, and historic restorations from Charleston to Columbia. We're currently managing the renovation of the old Charleston Naval Yard, a $40 million project. I looked down at Jessica, who was trembling. So when my daughter says I did my best and worked very hard, she's not wrong, but she's also not telling the whole story. Amanda Davis stepped fully into the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced in her clear, professional voice, "I'd like to introduce Michael Andrews, who serves on the board of directors of Riverside Country Club, and whose company's corporate sponsorship helped fund our recent facility upgrades." The crowd erupted, not polite applause, genuine shock and excitement. People were standing, phones were coming out, conversations were exploding at every table. Harrison Blackwell was on his feet, moving toward me with obvious intent. "Michael, I had no idea. We need to talk immediately about those 3 projects." "Harrison," I said mildly, "maybe we should focus on the celebration tonight." Thomas More appeared at my elbow. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "I've had the privilege of banking with Michael Andrews for 8 years. Andrews Building Group is one of our most valued commercial clients, and Michael personally sits on our loan committee for major construction projects." The crowd noise was reaching cocktail party levels. People were gravitating toward our end of the room, drawn by the revelation like metal filings to a magnet. Caroline Palmer was staring at me with her mouth slightly open. You're that Andrews Building Group? I am. We've been hearing about you for years. You're practically a legend in Charleston business circles. That's very kind. Patricia Palmer finally found her voice. Michael, we had no idea. Jessica said you were in construction, but she never mentioned... Never mentioned what? I asked gently. That your company was successful? The word hung in the air like a challenge. I looked down at Jessica again. She was crying now, but whether from shame or anger or fear, I couldn't tell. The thing about success, I said to the room, but really to my daughter, is that it's not about the size of your check or the prestige of your family name. It's about what you build, what you create, what you leave behind. I paused, letting that sink in. Jessica learned that from me, even if she's forgotten it tonight. The room was electric with tension and excitement. People were processing this revelation, understanding that they'd witnessed something unprecedented. Ryan's family was staring at him with questions in their eyes. Thomas Moore was practically beaming. Amanda Davis was radiating vindication, and Jessica was finally understanding exactly who her father was. But I wasn't done yet. I reached into my jacket and pulled out my phone. The latest iPhone encased in a simple black cover that had seen plenty of job sites. Now that we've cleared up any confusion about my background, I said, my voice carrying easily through the still fascinated crowd, I want to address something else. Jessica looked up at me for the first time since my revelation began. Her eyes were red, mascara slightly smudged, but she was listening. Jessica, honey, you said tonight is about the future, not the past. You said it's about the family that chose you, not the one you were born into. I scrolled through my contacts, finding the numbers I needed. You said it's about people who see potential and invest in it, not people who just provide basic necessities. My finger hovered over the first contact. Well, since I'm apparently just the provider of basic necessities, and since tonight is about your new family's investment in your future, I think it's time I stopped providing those basic necessities. Jessica's eyes widened. Daddy, what are you... Shh. I held up one finger. You said this is your day, not mine. Not. So let me make sure it stays your day. I pressed call. Amanda? Michael Andrews. Yes, I'm still here at the club. I looked around the room of frozen faces. I need you to process a payment cancellation. The wedding reception charge for Andrews, Jessica. Account number 4471839. Yes, the full $38,000. I paused. Cancel it effective immediately. The gasp from the crowd was audible. Amanda's voice carried through the phone speaker in the sudden silence. Michael, are you sure the event is currently in progress? I'm sure. The responsible party is no longer affiliated with Andrews Building Group. Understood. Processing now. I ended the call and immediately dialed the second number. Magnolia Catering, this is Samuel. Sam, it's Michael Andrews. I need to cancel payment on the Palmer Andrews wedding catering. Account ending in 1839, $28,000 charge. Mr. Andrews? Sam's confusion was evident. The event is happening right now. We're currently serving dessert. I understand. Cancel the payment anyway. Consider the food already served as complimentary. Sir, Okay, processing the cancellation now. Ryan was on his feet. You can't do this. I looked at him calmly while dialing the third number. Jennifer Taylor Photography. Jennifer, Michael Andrews. I need to cancel the wedding photography payment for tomorrow. $8,000. Account ending 1839. Mr. Andrews, is everything all right? Everything's fine, just changing payment responsibility. But sir, I've already shot 6 hours of photos today. Keep the photos. Consider today's work a gift, but no payment will be coming from Andrews Building Group. Sterling Palmer was standing now, his face flushed. Michael, surely we can discuss this. I held up my hand, phone still to my ear. Jennifer, please send all photos and editing bills to Ryan Palmer or Sterling Palmer. They're handling payment from here. I ended the call and looked around the room. $60,000, I said conversationally. That's what Jessica needed to make her dreams come true. $60,000 from the man who only provides basic necessities. The crowd was utterly silent. Even the servers had retreated to the kitchen. But since tonight is about the family that chose her, the family that really sees her potential, I'm sure they'll be happy to cover the difference. Ryan was frantically typing on his phone. Dad, call the bank. Call them now. Sterling's face had gone ashen. Son, calm down. We can fix this. Fix what? I asked. Jessica made it very clear that I'm not the father who matters, that my contributions are just basic necessities, that her real support comes from your family. I put my phone back in my pocket. So congratulations. You now have the full responsibility of supporting Jessica's dreams, just like you wanted. Patricia Palmer was gripping her purse like a life preserver. Michael, Jessica is young. She misspoke. Surely we can— Ma'am, with all due respect, Jessica is 26 years old. She graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern. She runs marketing campaigns for major clients. She's not a child who misspoke. She's an adult who made a choice. I turned to face the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for disrupting this beautiful celebration. The venue, catering, and photography have all been handled. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. I started walking toward the exit, but Thomas Moore intercepted me. Michael, he said quietly, this is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. I've never seen anything quite like it. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood the situation clearly. Oh, they understand. Believe me, they understand. Amanda Davis appeared beside us. Mr. Andrews, all cancellations have been processed. The venue's catering staff and photographers have been notified that payment responsibility has transferred to the Palmer family. Thank you, Amanda. For what it's worth, she said, lowering her voice. I think what you did took tremendous courage. Behind us, I could hear Ryan arguing frantically with his father. Jessica was sobbing. Patricia was trying to calm everyone down while simultaneously calculating costs. The crowd was buzzing with excitement and shock. Phones were out everywhere, undoubtedly capturing and sharing the most dramatic wedding moment Charleston had seen in years. Harrison Blackwell appeared at my shoulder. Michael, I know this isn't the time, but we absolutely must schedule a meeting. The Palmer Project, the marina expansion, the historic district renovation. Harrison, I said gently, tonight was about family. Tomorrow we can talk about business. I walked toward the exit, leaving behind the chaos, the unpaid bills, and the daughter who had forgotten where she came from. But I wasn't done with Jessica yet. Not quite. I made it halfway to my truck before Jessica caught up with me. Daddy, wait! Her voice was desperate, heels clicking rapidly across the parking lot. Please, just wait. I stopped beside my Ford F-150, keys in hand. The parking lot was full of luxury cars that cost more than most people's annual salaries. My truck looked exactly like what it was, the vehicle of a working man who'd built something real. Jessica reached me breathless, her wedding dress gathering dirt from the asphalt. You can't do this, she panted. You can't just leave. I'm not leaving, honey. I'm going home. You made it clear that tonight is your day, not mine. But the bills, the vendors, Ryan's family can't afford $60,000 on top of what they've already paid. I studied my daughter's face. Even in distress, she was beautiful. But there was something missing from her expression that used to be there. Humility. That's not my problem anymore, Jessica. How can you say that? I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. You're my daughter who just told 180 people that another man deserves credit for your success. You're my daughter who called 18 years of sacrifice basic necessities. Ryan appeared, jogging across the parking lot with his tie loosened and panic in his eyes. Mr. Andrews, thank God you're still here. We need to talk about this rationally. I thought we'd already talked rationally. You told me that technical work details were overwhelming for your colleagues. You said your guests expected a certain level of conversation that I couldn't provide. Ryan's face flushed. I was trying to help. These social situations are complicated. No, they're not. Either you respect people or you don't. Either you acknowledge their contributions or you don't. Sterling Palmer emerged from the country club, walking quickly toward us with Patricia behind him. Michael, he called out, let's discuss this like businessmen. I almost laughed. Now I'm a businessman? 5 minutes ago, I was just the embarrassing blue-collar father. Sterling reached us, slightly out of breath. You've made your point, quite dramatically, but surely we can reach some accommodation. What kind of accommodation? We'll acknowledge your contributions publicly. Patricia will make sure everyone knows about Andrews Building Group's success. That's generous, Sterling. But you're missing the point. Then explain it to me. I looked at my daughter, who was crying silently, her perfect makeup ruined. The point is that respect isn't something you negotiate. It's something you earn and give freely. Jessica had my respect for 26 years, and I had hers. Tonight, she decided that wasn't worth preserving. I never said that, Jessica burst out. I never said I didn't respect you. Really? You said Sterling was like a father to you. You thanked him for making this day possible. You said he represented the family that chose you, not the one you were born into. I was trying to be gracious to his family. By erasing mine? The silence stretched between us. In the distance, I could see guests streaming out of the country club, some heading to their cars, others clustering near the entrance to discuss what they'd just witnessed. Thomas More appeared, walking toward us with purpose. Michael, I hate to interrupt, but there are some practical matters we should address. Such as? Well, for starters, Jonathan Camden is inside asking to speak with you immediately. Apparently, Jessica's marketing firm has been trying to land Andrew's building group as a client for 2 years. Jessica's face went white. Also, Thomas continued, Harrison Blackwell is gathering several other developers. They want to discuss the Marina District project, and Amanda Davis mentioned that the country club's board will need to address tonight's situation at the next meeting. The implications were sinking in. Jessica's employer desperately wanted my business. The social circle she was trying to join needed my company's services, and I was on the board of the very venue where she'd humiliated me. There's more, Thomas said gently. Word is already spreading through Charleston business circles. Social media is calling this the $90K wedding lesson. It's going viral. Ryan pulled out his phone, scrolling frantically. Oh God, no, there are videos, multiple videos. I could see the posts he was looking at. Shaky phone footage of my revelation, clips of Jessica's toast, commentary from guests who understood exactly what they'd witnessed. Daddy, Jessica whispered, this will ruin me. No, honey. Your actions tonight might have consequences, but they won't ruin you. You're smart, talented, and capable. You'll figure it out. But my job, Camden and Associates will have to fire me. How can I stay on staff when our biggest prospect just canceled their potential contract because of me? I didn't cancel anything because of you. I just clarified who's responsible for payments. Patricia Palmer stepped forward. Michael, please, think about what this does to Jessica's reputation, her career. I have thought about it. For the past 18 years, I've thought about Jessica's reputation and career every day. I worked extra jobs so she could build the kind of life she wanted, but apparently that life doesn't include acknowledging where it came from. Sterling was typing on his phone now. I'm calling our bank. We can cover the $60,000. It'll be tight, but we can do it. That's between you and the vendors, I said. I'm sure they'll appreciate your prompt payment. A new group of people emerged from the country club, several men in expensive suits who I recognized as Charleston's business elite. They were scanning the parking lot, obviously looking for me. Michael, Thomas said, you might want to know that 3 of Charleston's top commercial developers are about to offer you very lucrative contracts. Tonight's demonstration of your principles has apparently impressed them considerably. I watched Jessica's face as she processed this information. Her networking strategy had backfired spectacularly. Instead of distancing herself from her blue-collar father, she'd revealed that her father was one of Charleston's most respected businessmen. Instead of gaining social capital, she'd lost it. The irony is beautiful, Thomas continued. Jessica spent months trying to hide her connection to you, and now half of Charleston's business community is trying to get connected to you through her. Daddy, Jessica said quietly, I messed up really badly. Yes, you did. Can you forgive me? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. 26 years old, crying in a $90,000 wedding dress in a country club parking lot, finally understanding that actions have consequences. Jessica, I've loved you every day of your life. That's not going to change because you made a mistake. Then you'll pay the vendors? You'll fix this? I smiled sadly. I'll love you, honey, but you're going to fix this yourself. How? The same way I built Andrew's building group, one day at a time with hard work and humility. I got into my truck and rolled down the window. When you're ready to talk about what really matters, not money, not status, not social circles, but family, you know where to find me. I drove away, leaving behind the country club, the chaos, and the daughter who was finally learning that some lessons can't be bought. They have to be earned. 3 weeks later, Jessica knocked on my door. I was in my workshop behind the house, building a cabinet for Mrs. Henderson next door. 78 years old, fixed income, but she'd been kind to me when I was starting out. Some work you do for money, some work you do for reasons that matter more. Daddy? I looked up from the dovetail joints I was cutting. Jessica stood in the doorway wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, no makeup, hair in a ponytail, She looked like the little girl I'd raised, not the social climber from the wedding. "Come in, honey." She sat on my workbench, careful not to disturb the wood shavings. "The wedding made the Charleston Business Journal," she said quietly. I heard. They called it a master class in self-made success and family values. They interviewed 6 different business leaders about leadership and respect. I kept working on the joint, letting her talk. Jonathan Camden fired me. I looked up. "I'm sorry." "No, you're not, and you shouldn't be." She picked up a wood shaving, rolling it between her fingers. "He said I'd shown poor judgment and questionable character. He said anyone who would publicly humiliate their own father for social gain couldn't be trusted with client relationships." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. I've had 3 job interviews, but word travels fast in Charleston. Everyone knows what happened." I set down my chisel. "Jessica, you're talented and smart. Someone will recognize that." "Maybe, but it'll have to be someone who values character more than connections." She looked around the workshop, at the tools I'd collected over decades, the projects in various stages of completion, the evidence of work done with care. "Ryan broke up with me." I waited. "His family couldn't handle the social embarrassment. Apparently, I'm not suitable for old Charleston society anymore." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out I never was. I'm sorry about that, too." "Are you?" I considered this. "I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm not sorry that you discovered Ryan's true character before you married him." We sat in comfortable silence while I worked. Jessica picked up a piece of sandpaper and began smoothing a cabinet door without being asked. "Daddy, I need to ask you something." "Okay." "Why didn't you ever tell me? About the company, the success, the money?" I stopped working and really looked at her. "Would it have mattered?" "What do you mean?" "If you'd known I was worth $15 million, would you have respected me more? Would you have been prouder to call me your father?" She was quiet for a long time, sanding the same spot over and over. "Maybe," she finally admitted. "Probably. That's why I didn't tell you. I wanted you to love me for who I was, not what I had. But you do have it. You built something amazing. I built something useful, something that employs good people and creates value." "But that's not why I'm your father." She set down the sandpaper. "I know that now. Do you?" "I think so. At the wedding, I was so focused on impressing people who didn't matter that I forgot to honor the person who did." I nodded. "And what are you going to do about that?" "I'm going to earn your respect back. And my own." "How?" She smiled for the first time since entering the workshop. "I'm going to start by learning your business. From the ground up. If you'll have me." I raised an eyebrow. "You want to work construction?" "I want to work for Andrew's building group, starting wherever you think I should start, learning whatever you think I should learn. It's hard work, Jessica. Not just physically, but mentally. You'll have to prove yourself to people who don't care about your college degree or your marketing experience." "Good. I need to remember what earning things feels like." I picked up my chisel again, considering. "There's a condition." "What?" "You start at the bottom, same as everyone else. You earn your way up based on merit, not because you're the boss's daughter. Deal. And you treat every person with respect, from the newest apprentice to the oldest foreman. Character isn't negotiable." "I understand." I looked at her sitting there in my workshop, surrounded by the tools and materials of honest work, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Humility. "Monday morning, 7 a.m. Wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty." She grinned. "Yes, sir." As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Daddy, I love you, for who you are, not what you have." "I love you too, honey. Always have, always will." After she left, I went back to work on Mrs. Henderson's cabinet. The joints had to be perfect, strong enough to last, beautiful enough to matter. Some things can't be bought or faked or negotiated. They have to be built, one careful cut at a time. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and let me know in the comments how you think Jessica's first day at Andrew's building group will go. Sometimes the best lessons are the ones we teach ourselves.